The question in my mind is, how do you create or relaunch a highly profitable and successful 6 to 7 figure business? With so much conflicting advice about the best ways to start and grow your business, how do you get it right the first time? I want to help entrepreneurs make a real difference and navigate the messy world of startup or relaunch. My name is John North, and this is the Startup Secrets for Entrepreneur Show. Join me today when we dig deep with our guests and get you the best blueprint so you can fast track your own business. This episode is sponsored by Evolvepreneur.app, your all-in-one online business system. Make sure you subscribe for future episodes at startupsecrets.show right now. So let's get into today's episode.
Hi everyone, just had a lovely chat with John North from Startup Secrets. Please join in and listen to our conversation in regards to the importance of buying Australian-made products and slow fashion, sustainable fashion, and how you can do your bit to contribute to saving our planet. Thank you.
My very special guest today is Belinda Jane, who's the founder of BJ's, and welcome to the show.
Hi, John. Thanks very much for having me. It's lovely to meet you.
Cool, and I really like your background.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice day today, so I'm going to be outside and enjoy the sun.
Not a green screen, so there you go. It's actually a funny thing because it kind of reminds me, there's an ad on TV where this guy's doing all his Zoom calls and he comes up and his background is the kitchen kitchen area or something. All these other people come up with all these, Zoom backgrounds with, looks like the beach and stuff like that. So
yeah. I usually have that one.
Really quickly. It's like, oh, gee.
So I'm very lucky. I've got some beautiful garden and lovely outdoor area.
Cool. So what we're going to talk about today is the messy world of e-commerce, because that's a very competitive market, and I guess if nobody else has got to face the big guys, you have to, right?
Yeah.
So how did you get yourself into this?
Well, I had no idea how hard it was going to be. I was struggling getting employment up here on the Central Coast and decided to start my own business. And I have a bit of a history in fashion, so felt I might give that a go, and couldn't find a product that I was looking for. So something comfortable, cotton. I've got sensitive skin, so synthetics don't agree with me. I hate underwires, yet I need support. And so, yeah, BJ's PJ's wire-free breast support loungewear was born.
Right. And so did you, I guess with anything like e-commerce, you've got lots of logistical things to worry about. So number one, you've got to get the product, and then number two, you've got to ship the product, and all through that, you've got to sell the product, right? So there's a lot of, it's almost like you've got to open your own retail shop without any sort of thing around you, right?
Yeah, so my house has become a warehouse. I'm fortunate that I have them made here in Sydney, so I get to do all the checking, quality control. I'm really strong on ethical fashion and slow fashion and supporting Australian business. So the logistics of shipping stuff isn't so bad. And keeping in check on my products being a premium product is easy for me because it's all done in Sydney, and I just, it's an hour and a half. That side of it's great. The competitive side of it's a real struggle. I'm self-funded, so it's an expensive mission to have all the stock in all the sizes, getting new styles, constantly battling against the competitors who have big bucks behind them.
Mm-hmm. And I guess the biggest problem with online is that a lot of people, it works a similar way in shops too, is that you're trying to get someone to buy something the first time, you want them to come back. So some of those scenarios with those guys is they're fully prepared to spend a lot of money to get that customer, or even lose money on that customer initially, to get them to come in the front door. So what do you have ever sort of calculated what your average cost to acquire a customer would be in terms of that? Or?
Oh, wow. No, I haven't done that kind of number crunching. I've slowed down on my marketing because of COVID. It's a bit scary, and people have, my sales have slowed down for that same reason, I believe. even though they're perfect working from home wear.
Yes, there's an opportunity there.
Yeah, there definitely is. And the cost of marketing is incredibly high. So I'm trying to do, free marketing ventures, doing my own stuff, trying to do a bit of PR here and there on my own, which that's not my forte. So it's tough. It's just constant hard work. We're talking before about how you're working 24/7, and that's pretty much what it is. I'm constantly trying to come up with new ideas. So even if I'm not on the computer, it's like, how can I get a customer to really like my Instagram post, or how do I reel them in? It's
yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. I think that's the true entrepreneur, because the entrepreneur doesn't switch off at 5 o'clock at night. And they go like, employee might switch off and say, I'm going home now. That's it. Yeah. But the reality is, most people, that they're constantly thinking, and you wake up in the middle of the night with a good idea or something. Funny enough, I seem to get my best ideas out of the shower. I get to have a shower and sort of like disconnect for a while, and sometimes you get the best ideas ever. So
mine are about 3 a.m. They usually pop in my head and where's a pen?
So in terms of like, how long have you been operating now? So did you start this right around the same sort of COVID time, or were you before that?
No. Well, it took me about 3 years to get the product what it needed to be. So initially I started with some of the manufacturers I was using in the industries I was working with before, which was mainly surf industry, and their products just weren't good enough. They were just horrible. And my idea behind it all was to have a product that's got longevity. So it's slow fashion, it's versatile, you can wear it anywhere. So you don't need to have 20 different outfits every day, one for the gym, one for lounging in, one for going to work in. It's pretty much, you can wear them anywhere. I'm wearing them right now, actually, and I'm just throwing on a shirt.
Your own stuff, right?
Yeah, and I'm super comfy, and it's the idea behind it being a product that isn't just something you wear a couple of times and it loses shape. The style goes out of fashion, all the things that slow fashion is all about. So it's important for me to have a quality product and a good design, and finding that was really hard. I can't tell you how hard that was. Trying to find the right fabric, the right pattern maker, the right manufacturer. I went through literally hundreds of samples before I got the right one. And
the thing about it in Australia too is shipping's not fun, because it's quite expensive.
Very.
In the US, like you can get something shipped out for a couple of dollars. You can even get something shipped faster from the US to Australia than you can actually in Australia ship to the next town.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and that's a challenge as well. So, and competing with these companies that are greenwashing is also really unfair, I think, to the consumer. If someone
what do you mean by greenwashing?
So all these big companies like, I don't know, I shouldn't name them, should I? They'll say
they won't hurt you then. It's the little ones that get after you. The big ones don't care.
True. So greenwashing is basically telling the consumer that their product is ethical, sustainable, organic, made here in Australia, and it's actually not. So they're just hopping on the bandwagon of what's a trend at the moment and is increasing is ethical and sustainable fashion, or, not even just fashion, food, all sorts of stuff. So they're tapping into that market and can do so much easily than a small startup can, because they're already set up. They've got their marketers, they've got their staff on board anyway, so they just give them another thing to work on, and then they've got their ethical product.
And I mean, that's the interesting thing, because I mean, outside the fact of getting caught out, and I think there was a major one that just recently got caught out saying that, and I guess the same principle is that, claiming something about their clothing that wasn't really true.
Yeah.
Or didn't say it was, COVID, like you couldn't get COVID by wearing these clothes, but the reality was they didn't say that, but it was close enough. And I think that's
funny.
Yeah, it was funny. I know. Well, number one, why would anybody fall for that in the first place? Like, common sense would tell you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But obviously, apparently, that's can't legislate against common sense. So at the end of the day, it's kind of strange if you ask me. Like, sure, yeah, of course, wearing clothes isn't going to be COVID free. Like,
that's serious greenwashing.
Yeah, that is serious greenwashing. But I mean, also you got to think about the intelligence of the and consumer thinking. Well, okay, that can't be real. Like,
yeah, true. Yeah,
you'd have to be you'd have to think. Well, hang on a minute. The virus comes through the face and the hands, which aren't covered by the clothes. So therefore, how the hell are you going to stop you from getting it?
What's that saying? You can't help stupid?
Oh, exactly right. Absolutely. And common sense is very common.
Yes, that's right.
I find that because it's very interesting. I've got a friend of mine in the States who's very big in presentations on stage and stuff like that. And he's run a lot of like 3-day live events and stuff. And he used to always say to me, people don't read, listen, or pay attention.
Wow.
And you've got to assume that's the case. And you look at current environments in Sydney, people don't read, listen, or pay attention.
Very good advice.
Exactly. So they almost have to be told over and over again like children.
Yeah.
And you think to yourself, why is the government telling you over and over again like children that you got to do this when you think this is obvious? But for some people, it isn't obvious. And I think that's the sort of mistake people make in marketing is they think that their customer might be a little bit more cluey or a little bit more sophisticated than they really are because they're not necessarily thinking about all that sort of stuff. So it's almost like an education thing.
Yeah.
And then obviously in your case, when you're looking at this situation, is that people are claiming stuff and there's no official badge you can get that says your clothes are officially this and they've been certified to be correct and all that sort of stuff? Or?
Yeah, so there are a few certifications out there. I've got the ones I can afford to get, and that they do help. I've got the Australian Made license, which is certified, Ethical Clothing Australia. There's quite a few, Fair Trade, and yet they're not that easy to obtain, which is good. And yet some people can just throw them on their website, even if they haven't got it, and it looks like they've got it. So, it's a tough one. I'm really transparent and more than happy to share any documentation that anyone requests. And I don't think a lot of people will ask for it. But
they're probably not thinking that much about it until it becomes an issue to them, or they realise that. And I think it's interesting with clothing is that, and I think I had another kind of similar guest that was going to come on the show, and I researched him a little bit, and they were talking about the amount of wastage and everything that goes on when you manufacture these clothes that aren't ethically manufactured or whatever, and there's a huge economic cost as well. But in terms of the actual just what they do with them just to make them, and the fact is they don't necessarily last that long anyway, right? So they're basically falling apart fairly quickly. It
is one of the world's biggest contributors to greenhouse gas and pollution. It's horrendous.
Wow.
Yeah, and I try to educate people on that because a lot of people don't know. So I'll try to include them in my posts or share information on Facebook. But there's a lot of information out there if anyone's interested. It's all available to anyone to read. It's just a lot of people are still stuck in that. Why would you spend $100 on a pair of loungewear pants when I can buy them from Kmart for $10? It's like, well, no one thinks about it. It's like, I'd rather spend $10 than $100.
Programmed to buy on price, right? In the clothing industry particularly, it's a very price-orientated thing, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's slowly changing, but because I'm such a small player, it's a hard market to break in, and there's only a smaller market for them at the moment.
Well, it's actually interesting because this shirt I'm wearing here is a bamboo shirt, and so at one point there, I found a bamboo website that sells bamboo clothes, and once I got into it, I actually ended up with all this bamboo stuff. So basically, I've got bamboo towel, bamboo underwear, bamboo shirts. Like it never ended. Like bamboo socks. Everything's gone bamboo. And the reality is like I play a lot of squash, so I've got all these bamboo socks, and it's so much better to play in. It's like once you realise that, and then you're looking and go, hang on, that's like whatever might be a $20 pair of socks or something. But I've bought socks or one socks that I've worn that lasted less than a month or so, and they start getting holes in them. Whereas the other socks, they lasted for like over a year before they even looked like they were going to, and they're being worn every week.
Yeah. And that's the kind of thing that we need to educate people on. It's quality over quantity.
Yeah.
And
I tried to try and get these shirts, like I got these shirts from a guy in Queensland, and he just doesn't seem to want to respond to my emails. I don't know what's going on with him. He says I'm going to send you a quote, and never sends me a quote, because to get them done that way and get the bamboo shirts, but these bamboo shirts could cost up to nearly $80.
Yeah.
And so, but they last like forever, right? And they're comfortable. Like I make a preference to rather wear them than something else.
Yeah, definitely. They breathe. They're a natural fibre. And don't get me wrong, I love bamboo. It's incredible. And any natural fibre, I'm all for it. And just to give cotton a plug, it's much more versatile and long-lasting. So my garments will last. I'm wearing them now, and these are the same pair that I first got one of the samples in from my Australian manufacturer about 3 years ago, and I'm constantly in them, and I wash them all the time, and they don't peel and they haven't changed shape. And so, that's the kind of stuff that people tend to forget when they can just go and buy another pair for $5. So
yeah. And I mean, I think the younger generation is very much focused on price, so they don't really look at necessarily all those decision makings, but they are also very focused towards ecological stuff in terms of that. So you can twist them around from price to the other one pretty quickly, and they'll change their minds really fast. The interesting with cotton, obviously, is to grow cotton is incredibly expensive in water. So if you're
that's a bit of a myth on that one. Organic cotton uses a lot less water. The water that they do use is recycled, because organic cotton doesn't have any of the chemicals in it, so they can reuse the water, whereas regular cotton does use a bit more than organic, because if it is required to have chemical dyes or other chemicals in it, then they can't reuse the water. So it's a massive pollution factor with any fabric being manufactured with dyes. The processes that are involved with it is quite scary, that no one really knows about, because they just, pick up a garment and go, oh, I like that. And
do you want simple and effective ways to get started that don't cost a fortune in time and money? Discover the best steps for each strategy we teach and the most important areas to focus on, and even to connect with your best customers and grow an online community. Grab your free copy of Startup Secrets for Entrepreneurs at startupsecrets.show. Well, I guess, like when you ask a young kid where does meat come from, they say the supermarket, right?
Yeah.
They never see the process that goes behind the scenes, and in some cases, I think, like when I was living in North Queensland, we used to have bananas, like a big lot of banana plantations up there, and when I saw what they did to bananas and the whole process, I wouldn't eat them. Right? It's like it took me years to get around. Like in Sydney, I eat them now, but you're kind of desensitized, but you don't see the process and how it gets to there. So it becomes a very homogenized kind of thing. And for bananas, for example, and a lot of fruit, they freeze it. So what happens is as soon as you get that fruit, within like 2 days, it's going off, and you wonder why. It's because it was frozen and then unfrozen. And then because it needs to look perfect for the customers. The customer thinks, oh, this is fantastic fruit. It all looks the same. And the reality is fruit never looks the same. We try to grow it through COVID and it doesn't look the same. And so it's like you end up in a situation where you think that whole process is where it is, but it isn't. The background to it isn't what you think it is, and a lot of things.
Yeah, and fashion is a massive, massive contributor to the pollution that we're all hoping to fix, but you have to actually act on it. We all need to make better choices and stop buying.
I mean, you see a lot of things now where like supermarkets are finally saying, well, getting rid of plastic bags and packaging. Like the one that I always wondered, the most thing was toothpaste, right? You buy toothpaste in this cardboard box that's then in another box, like in another container. You think, why do you have two boxes? All right, because they can't stack it. So why don't you just make toothpaste stackable?
Right.
Like and you cut
Good
down.
idea.
And apparently they reckon, though, I forget the amount of covering just for toothpaste is like worldwide. The amount of paper resources that must be to make those boxes that you just simply throw away is massive.
See, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. It's actually everywhere. We should, packaging's a nightmare. It's like so horrible. We don't use any plastic in any of our packaging. So, every little bit helps. and I encourage everyone to do their bit. And
apparently in toothpaste, although I read this somewhere too, and I actually checked it out. On the bottom of toothpaste, there's colour. The colour that's on the bottom of the toothpaste tells you what's in it. So there's different colours, blue, red, all this sort of stuff. And so, because I think it's interesting too, when you look at how long it took people to do things, apparently it took something like, I don't know what it was, 10 or 15 years for someone to accept toothpaste as a product. It took nearly 50 years for TVs to become, like commodities.
Oh, wow.
And so some products now take less than a year to become, the standard product, or less time, and it's getting shorter and shorter. And obviously because of global communication and stuff like that. But I think it took something like 30 years to convince people to use deodorant or something. So it's people are slow at getting it sometimes, unless they can see a big cause to it. And I think the environment's probably the biggest one, because you can't, unless you're a billionaire and you're going to fly someone else from outer space. You don't wonder why all these billionaires suddenly want to go to space, right?
Come on.
What do they know? We don't know.
Yeah. How about they invest in the planet?
Well, yeah, and I was looking at those scenarios, because you see a lot of posts on Facebook and stuff, like when they say, Richard Branson or whatever's just gone into space, and the people said the amount of money you spent on this trip, you could have probably solved the starving Africans, if you like, or you could have solved an ecological problem, or and you look at something like Bill Gates, who's trying to invent a better toilet, and you wonder why. And when you look at the whole scenario, it's like, wow, that's just amazing, because it's such a big thing. More people die every day just in India because they don't have proper toilets than anything else. Millions.
Yeah.
But you don't see it because no one wants to put it on the news about that. And I think that's the trick, really.
Yeah, I agree. It's all about education, isn't it?
Yeah. And I guess that's your only thing you can really do, is you can make it stand for the small guy. And I think interesting enough that the market likes that. They like the underdog. They like the underdog story. So I think if anybody in marketing can kind of pull yourself up as the underdog, fighting the big guys, everybody likes to fight the big guys, right?
Yeah.
They all shop with the big guys. It's like they fall for it. But the reality is, I think that's almost like they're buying their own little piece of revolting, if you like.
If everyone took time to think about their purchases before they actually just automatically grab for it,
yes,
that's just one small thing we can all do. It's just taking that little bit of time, and even reading a label, is it Australian made, or we're doing it for the economy as well, and keeping jobs here, and let's all do our bit, and it makes a massive difference.
And I think it's interesting now with the pandemic, what it's made obvious is certain countries have real problems with supply. And so if you manufacture and make your own stuff in your own country, then you've got a situation where you don't have to worry so much about, this danger of losing that access. Because, I think there was with recycled stuff, China was taking all the recycled stuff from worldwide. So all the junk and everything went to China. They bought it and they cut it down and recycled it. And then they said, no more. So they're saying, no, we don't want it anymore. You can have it. You can keep it. And Australia got very good at recycling and sending it over, not very good at actually doing it.
Yeah.
And I imagine that's still a big problem now. But the reality is that if you can keep a lot of stuff in your own country and manufacture your own things, you're very self-sufficient and you're supporting each other rather than supporting some big company overseas. That's basically the money just doesn't ever land back here.
That's absolutely the goal. It's something we all need to do. It's so easy and such a bad habit that we've all gotten into that, I could buy 3 T-shirts for the price of one. So I'm going to buy 3. And then when they lose shape and start peeling, I'll just landfill. And
yeah,
I don't even think about it, but it's huge. It's a huge problem.
Because nowadays, kids don't want hand-me-downs, right? So there used to be hands down, so they would have new clothes, right?
No.
And that's the whole thing. It used to be, but not probably your generation. Our generation, it's like you always cop the hand-me-down clothes from the relatives or whatever, and you didn't get much of a choice of what you wore.
That's right. Or furnishing your house. You'd get hand-me-downs, and now they all want something new, and which is nice, but really, it's just cheap, nasty consumer throwaway products.
So then ask me this question: why do they have to wear jeans that are falling apart?
Yeah, hello.
I've got to buy new clothes and then I've got to wear jeans that are falling apart. I never get that concept of jeans with cut holes in them that look like they've come out of the apocalypse.
Yeah, it's and that too contributes. The new fashion coming out is this or that, and so you throw out your old pair that's perfectly fine. And yeah, great recycled clothes are a wonderful thing. I love op shopping, and you can find some great products. But the upcoming generation, they want new everything.
Yeah, it makes sense. All right, so the key message here is that think about it before you take that credit card out and buy something.
Yeah, definitely.
And actually look at the label and be conscious about what you're doing. And I think that's a big, not a hard thing to do, right? It's just think one extra 30 seconds and think, is this thing what it is, right?
And if it's going to cost a few extra cents or dollars, you're doing your bit to help Australia, the world. And it's like that.
Treat it as a donation, right?
Right, pretty much.
And the reality is going to last longer anyway. Like the shirts, like my bamboo shirts, like I've got bamboo shirts years and years, and on other shirts that just get after a while, just get to a point you're not going to wear them anymore because they don't feel any good. And
isn't it lovely, the breathable fabrics?
Yes.
Just on your skin, it's so lovely. I can't stand synthetics. I'm allergic to most of the dyes and everything in that chemicals that they use in synthetics anyway. But so that kind of says a lot to me.
Yeah, makes sense.
But just to wear cotton just feels really lovely on your skin. So this is there's different types of cotton, of course. This is more the crisp cotton, and then my fabrics are a stretch, soft brush cotton. So they're still cotton, but you've got to pick and choose what kind of cotton you want to go for, and I go for organic. And
makes sense. Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and educating us about fashion.
Let's get the word out there.
And being a bio warrior at the same time.
Been lovely to meet you and chat. Thanks very much, John.
No, again. So tell me a little bit about how they can get anything from you. So it's BJs with an S, pjs.com.au is the website, right? Yeah.
So I've got a couple of sales on there. And I know you're into techie stuff. So I've just collaborated with an amazing woman, Dee. She's got a product called My Offer, and it's a little app. So you can go in my little chat box and make an offer, and if it's reasonable, we'll bargain with you.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, I've seen some of those things. Like, it's quite a cool idea because I've seen the people where you pay what you think or what you feel. And I think there's a weight loss company that does that, Noom, and they actually come and you actually pay whatever you feel you want to pay for the first month to try something.
Yeah, well, yeah. Oh, and I've got an offer at the moment too. If you buy a pair of pants, you get 50% off. Dog not included. Buy the pair of pants and you get 50% off the top of your choice. So that's some specials at the moment. But if anyone's interested, they can always email me.
Cool, no worries. Well, thank you so much, and all the best with your new venture.
Thank you very much, John. Appreciate it.
That's a wrap on another awesome episode for the Startup Secret Show for entrepreneurs. Just before you go, if you like this episode, we'd be very grateful for a 5-star review. Please also consider recommending the show to a friend or two. Make sure you subscribe for future episodes at startupsecrets.show right now. Until next time, if you're an entrepreneur, make a start on your next great business idea today.